Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. It's a beautiful day in Georgia. I am thankful for that. There's been a lot going on um, everywhere around the country. We've had bad weather. We've had, people protesting this or arguing that or fighting this and fighting for that, whatever. We've got bombs being dropped overseas. There's a lot going on in the world today. And I will say this up front. I'm glad I live in America. I'm glad that I served the military, served our country. I am grateful for so many things that we have in this country. We don't think about it until maybe we visit somewhere. We go somewhere and you can see, if you ever went on a missions trip to like Mexico and built a house for somebody and you realize they don't have much of nothing. And we are so immune to or numb to the whole to needing something, right? We become such a microwave society that we say, "Hey, I need XYZ." Go to Amazon, go to Speedway Motors, go to Speed whatever Summit, and you say, "I want this," and it shows up. We are blessed. We truly are. And so the things that are going on across the world, um, the conflicts we're seeing over in Iran, and there's a long history of all that stuff. I hope it all goes well for the true Iranian people who deserve to be free and not under the thumb that they've been under for the last 47 years or so, something to that number. Anyway, I'm glad I live in America. I am glad that I have the opportunity to do this. You know, I'm glad I have the opportunity to share this stuff with you, and you can be involved. Just the fact we have internet access, I can sit here and I can talk to you live from my garage is hard to fathom in some parts of the world. So let me just say that up front. Now, all this stuff is going on. We always hope for the best, and I don't want to dwell on that stuff, but I'm just giving you my current opinion on things. So you probably saw the last video that I did on the Fango Fastback, and there's a lot to absorb. There's a lot of information that I put out in these videos. There's people doing what I'm doing, and as I point out many times, they're not giving you all that information. They're not showing you all the details. They're not doing the same thought processes that I am in most cases. Granted, there are some, but I try to give you as much information as I possibly can. So if you decide to do something like this, you're not, behind the curve. Um, Test fitting pieces and parts, we've run into problems like with the master cylinder and trying to figure that out. I think I have that resolved. The vintage air system, it could probably work the way it is, but I'm going to improve and make it better. That's how I operate. Currently, I pulled the engine back out and I've pulled all the wiring off of it. I pulled the AC compressor off of it. And as I'm going through the boxes and pieces and parts, um, some stuff is going to be dead on perfect, do exactly what we need, and some stuff we may have to revise. The current situation, the vintage air system, the owner bought a front runner system to put on it, and all of that's going to work. And it's going to take care of the compressor, the power steering pump, relocate some things, and I think all that's going to be just great. We also have to deal with transmission lines, and on these Coyote engines, they've got a block on them that's kind of like an interchange or intercooler with the heater core, or the cooling fluids. So we have to figure that out. And it may be as simple as just connecting some plumbing lines to a radiator and eliminating some of that stuff. But there's a lot that's interactive on these things. And so we're looking at what we may end up having to do with a radiator. I know I posted on Facebook and I had somebody comment that they used a radiator for 429 and seemed to work fine. But we haven't, we're still kind of treading water on that one. So I pulled the engine back out. I'm going to start doing modifications. I want to move the opening for the air conditioning outboard about 2 inches. I think that's all we need. Move that 2 inches. That'll give the heater core connections a more comfortable position, and the AC will be fine. So that's really a small thing. And I'm going to take the 2 holes that were for the original heater core, smooth those off, blend them in, make it look nice. So it's just, the process of doing these sort of things. So that video had tons of information, and there's still more to resolve in that respect. So I'm kind of continuing that process with the next video, and that's how things are going at the moment. So if you're new to my channel, if you are new to my live streams, I've been doing these for quite some time on Monday nights at 7 p.m. And I'm going to ask for opinions because I may change that. What I've learned is I'm doing it at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Well, that's 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Central. Go to the West Coast, California, and it's 4 o'clock, and it's on a Monday. So some people can't be involved. They can't. They're working, or they have to watch it later. And so I'm offering or suggesting the idea that I go to Sunday nights. And YouTube is saying it also. They feel like I would do. They tell you, hey, you'd be better off to do this. And they're trying to tell me to do it Sunday nights at like 5 o'clock. And so if y'all give me an opinion, let me know. Because I'm really thinking it might be beneficial for a lot of people to do it on Sunday nights. Because for me, it's just a day at this point. I just picked Monday nights out of the blue a long time ago. And so I'm considering changing to Sunday nights. And I did a little survey on YouTube and was asking people. And so far, it's been like 85% or something have said they would rather do it on Sunday nights. So I'm putting that out there right now. Also, if you're watching my live streams, I make videos, as you know, I hope you know. And I hope you're watching these videos. When I do the stuff that I do, and I mention this in every live stream, that my period of time that I focus on is between about 1955 and 1980. That's my bracket. That's what I'm most comfortable with. And I ask people to be involved with the live stream. If you have a question or a suggestion, by all means, I encourage you to be part of it and be interactive with the live stream. I try to help people resolve problems while I'm here. And if I can't, a lot of times the chat box over there is filled with some really good guys and girls who offer suggestions as well. So that's where we're at. Now, I took off last week, as I said I wouldn't be here, and I do once a year I do a kind of a charity fundraiser event for a friend of mine, and it's just been I've been doing it for years, and so that's why I wasn't here last week. So I'm hoping that you all are still enjoying these live streams. I typically have between 40 to 60 people, and it would be nice to see that number increase if I do it on Sundays, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's see who's here tonight and get this party started. So first one in is Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Evening, Dave. Dave is a frequent follower on Facebook as well. So I appreciate Dave being part of that. Rick Stevenson. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rick. Likewise with Rick. He's interactive, and Rick is my coffee guy. So get a little bit of coffee going. Glad you're here, Rick. And Rick Gain. After a rotten day, I need some good car talk. Everyone, thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, Rick. And Rick also helps me out a lot with on Facebook, interactive, and he offers people suggestions to follow my videos and that sort of thing. So I think that's really good. And I'm going to talk about something else related to YouTube here in a little bit. I had a great conversation the other day. So glad to hear, Rick. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. Can't stay dumb. Work. Have fun and a great car chat. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Enjoy flying. Terry, good evening. Terry Keithley, sorry. Good evening, everyone and Barry. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. Thank you, sir. And my heart goes out to you. You know what I'm saying. Travis, good evening, all. I'm not making much progress on the car itself, but making the garage more organized. Well, that is, I'll give you a bell for that for sure. Right now, the garage here, and I've talked about it on Patreon. It's like an explosion happened. There's pieces and parts and boxes everywhere, but that's part of the process. Terry's saying, "Hey Jerry, stay safe and Buckeyes drool." Oh, rule, not drool. Oh, sorry, I misread that. Uh, George Crackle, Barry, with what seems like the whole world on fire, it's really nice to spend an hour with you and the gang here. Thank you all. Awesome. Thank you, George. I agree. You know, there's always other places we could be, but it's great to have a great group of people that want to do this and interact. So thankful. Steve Reed, hello Barry and everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. Great work on the fastback, and give a thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, sir. Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry. It's great to be in your garage again. Well, thank you, Richard. Next time, bring donuts. Troy Justin, how do you do from coastal Georgia? The weather is fine, and so is the company. Let's get our chat on. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, the weather was just about perfect today. Really, truly was. Had the door open, birds are singing, wind's blowing, neighbor's running his mower. That was okay. Pat Attic, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pat. Welcome. Roger, greetings from next door on a pleasant Monday evening. Yes, it is definitely that. I had a visit today from a friend of mine who is interested in a neighbor up the street has some tractors he's talking about selling. And I've reached out to this friend of mine and said, hey, this guy wants to sell these tractors, and he's a tractor guy. So I said, come on in, So we were able to go up there, which was really nice today. We got up there before lunch, and the weather was it was absolutely perfect. Humidity's down, not 90 degrees, not 30 degrees. It was a nice day to go look at some tractors, and we did that this morning. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. Glad you're here. Dave Conville, good evening, all. Good evening, sir. I'm not sure what the weather is doing in New Jersey. I'm sure it's not as nice as it is here, but Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, evening all. Warm mid 80s this week. Yeah. Enjoy it while you can, right? Jiggy, evening all. I can't make the live tonight, but hopefully we'll have some able-bodied fellers help me move large chunks of chassis out of my garage tonight. That would be beneficial. Always helpful. I went to his house a few weeks ago and was looking at his 65 project, and we kind of came to the conclusion that that car wasn't the one he needed to be working on. So he took everything back apart and is starting over. And I think that's a wise choice. The bowler hat guy, David. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. James, my Mustang Garage. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Yes, and if you haven't, I've been trying to promote my Mustang Garage a little more. James has started his channel, and he's been posting videos, and the videos have a great amount of knowledge in them. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. If you haven't checked him out, I encourage you to go give him a look and maybe even subscribe to him and help his channel grow. So there you go. Terry says, Barry, how's your mom doing? She's okay. She's getting weaker. She is getting weaker. And I'm probably going to plan a trip Um, I don't know if it'll be towards the end of this month and go back home and see her, um, because she's just not. I mean, she's not going to get better, but she's getting weaker, and it's becoming more obvious when I talk to her on the phone. So I need to go up and see her, make sure she's okay for now. Thankfully, my sisters are there. They're taking care of her a bit. Yeah, thank you, Dave Conville. Great intro tonight. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Art Man checking from Minnesota. Good evening, all. Good evening, sir. Minnesota. Mr. Mikey, howdy, gang, and you too, Mr. B. Heat got the rear axle seal out, waiting on machine shop for engine. Okay, well that's a plus. Heat will do a lot of magical things when it's trying to take something apart. James says Sunday at 5 p.m. sounds great. I'm always free that time. Okay, thank you for that. Rick Stevenson, ready for the change to Sunday. Great. Steve Reed, Sunday would be good. Okay, so we're getting some good feedback. Nandu, Sunday night should be good. Terry Keithley, Sunday night is okay with us. And Travis, Sunday at 5. Later would be good as well. 7 p.m. is also good. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm debating on. I know YouTube says, hey, do it at 5. Again, I'm trying to consider the people that are on the left coast, right? 5 is 2 for them. Maybe that's better. I don't know. But I may push it to 6 or 7 on Sunday nights as well. I think it makes sense. Richard, Sunday sounds great. Troy, Sunday works for me. That actually would be better for my schedule. Okay. Ed Cucciarella, hello all. Maybe post a few days' time so we can vote on it. New time slot. Yeah, I think overall, it'll probably end up being on Sunday. I have things going on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays. Monday has been just kind of a free day, and Sunday also. Sunday evening is a free day for me, so that's kind of where I'm leaning towards is the Sunday thing. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. Does anyone need some snow? I have more than I need. Yeah, the the snow up there has been pretty impressive. My buddy up there, RC Guy Garage, if you haven't seen him, he plows and makes videos of his plowing and stuff. And I've been getting a kick out of those videos because I tell him, I said, I am so glad I live in Georgia. Thank you for the offer, though, really, that you can keep it. Travis, Wow just had an ad. It was below your video. It reduced your volume, but I could still watch your feed. Nice. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I hope that stays that way. James, thanks, Barry. I appreciate your endorsement and encouragement. You're welcome, sir. Dave Tyson, Sunday, okay, good. Julian, 7 p.m. works for me. Glad you're here. Vincent Fitante, every evening, everyone. Sunday will work. Okay, good. So glad you're here, Vincent. Richard asked me what the temperature is. Currently, it's 64 degrees. Currently, we had a high today of 76. And the weather's going to be like that this whole week. I mean, just perfect weather. So, James, I have a question about the AC lines on Fangle. Do you mark your lines and have a professional crimp them, or do you crimp them yourself? Okay, now I've done this before. And the answer I have is the hoses I cut to the length I need, put the fittings on, I put tape on, and I index them. Right? So you put a piece of tape on the metal tube, the flange, and I cut the hose to the length I need. I put it where I want it, and then I put another marker. You don't have to use tape, but tape works. You could just use a Sharpie. I put the marks on there, and then I travel to a place that has the tools to do that. and we line it up, crimp it together, spend $20, and I'm done. So that's the way you do it. At least that's the way I do it. Now, I'm not going to invest in the uh, tools to crimp the hose. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. I'd be more stuff that I just sit on the side. But that's exactly how I do it. I take it somewhere else and let them do the work. But it's worked out great. In fact, that's what I did on Jade. Robert and I went to a place because Robert helped me put the AC in Jade, and we went to the next town over and had it crimped up. Good question. Thank you, James. Julian says, "Hi today, 32. Still too cold in the machine shop." Yeah, I hate it for you, Richard. Were you able to resolve the master cylinder to valve cover clearance? Um, the master cylinder we have will fit. Now, I've got a lot of input from other people. Um, I had somebody send me a link. I think it was Harvey. Yeah, Harvey sent me a link the other couple nights ago. There's some other company that makes a cantilever system that allows for a power brake booster under the dash and the master cylinder. Like, it doesn't put anything under, out on the firewall. It actually sits it sideways under the dash. And it's like I said, it's a cantilever system. And I was like, that's kind of brilliant when it comes down to it. So that was one of the ideas. Another one was a company called Mallwood. They make some sort of slave cylinder with a remote reservoir type of thing. So currently, I think the answer is we're going to use the master cylinder that we got now. The clearance is small. Now, there's a few things to consider with that. One, if I was using stock engine mounts in a stock type configuration and it was that close, I'd be more concerned. Currently, with the TCI setup, the frame's not going anywhere. The rails aren't, the frame's not going to move. And the motor mounts are very rigid, very, very rigid. What I will probably consider doing is indenting the firewall maybe half an inch. And what I mean is I'll cut loose the opening for the firewall and create some flanges that allow it to step back and weld in plates so that it's moved to the back. What I would then have to do is cut the flanges off of the brace and compress that a half inch. Because if you move that back, it is likely would try to interfere with the dash. So to me, it's really not that complicated. Some cuts, move, weld, puts everything back in the same dimension. So that's kind of where I'm at with that process, and I think it's going to work fine. Now, it would probably work fine as is. The other thing I was thinking about was the valve covers. My assumption is we're going to use the valve covers that are on this, the factory valve covers. No reason not to. And I was looking it up a little bit, seeing if there was an aftermarket, but they want way too much money for these billet like valve covers. And so I'll modify whatever I need to use the master cylinder. I think it's going to be just fine. So good question, though. Thank you, Richard. Gerhard, good evening, Barry and gang. I'm a bit late today. Okay, no problem. Glad you're here. David Wright, evening all. Barry, thanks for the tip on the drip molding. It was a good deal. You're welcome, sir. And so what he is talking about is I posted on Patreon. So, I put videos on Patreon. The nice part about Patreon is I can interact with everybody there a different way. And the videos that I post there don't have any ads on them, nothing. So it's a much cleaner video series. But also, if I find like maybe a discount on something that's a really good discount or some benefit that I can offer, then I will post it on Patreon, and then people can take advantage of that. In this case, I posted a very, 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 very good deal on rain gutter molding for the 65 to 68 coupe. And so that's what he's talking about. So I'm glad that you got a set of those. Nandu, watching your latest video looks like having that mock-up engine helped you a lot. Do you agree? Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it gave me a heads up on a lot of things. Obviously, it couldn't relate to the master cylinder. We couldn't know that because that I could have taken the valve cover. I would have had to take the valve covers off of the real engine and put them on the mock-up engine to see that. Didn't want to do that, obviously, but um, yeah, getting the transmission up there gave me a heads up on opening up the floor, and yeah, it was definitely beneficial. Yeah. Um, okay, so I hate to say it, I don't know. It's CHHH. I don't know if your name is up here anywhere, but the uh, we used to get like a name, and now it's done this thing where it's an at thing. So I don't have a name to give you. So you're saying my tail panel sits about half an inch below my brace. Brace, okay. The holes for the bumper bracket are sitting low as well. Dynacorn, everything is where it was originally, and has been measured. And it's a '65 Mustang coupe. Okay, let me think about this a second. So it's about a half inch below the brace. So I'm assuming you're when you say the brace, the cross piece between the frame rails. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Um, I've not dealt with the Dynacorn panels for a 65. I don't know how good they are. I really don't. Um, on the, I will say this on the light blue Mustang that I did. I did a series on that one as well, a 65 that I built, and I had trouble with everything sitting low on the back of the car. It took some work. I ended up massaging. I don't even remember what all I did, but I ended up moving everything up. Now I know you're saying everything's in the same. Everything is where it was originally and has been measured. So when you talk about that, I have to wonder: is is the tail panel made correctly? Is the first question. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Um, I have had to deal with relocating the holes on brackets and even the tail panel. Like I've massaged pieces into place and got them where I wanted them, and then had to modify the brackets to make them drop down or whatever to match with the holes in the tail panel. So what I normally do, like when I do this, set that stuff up, I take the bumper with the brackets and I put it on the car or hold it up to the car and see where that's at. And so if the holes, even though they may, I'm sure they are low, but even if they appear low or might be low, if the bumper lines up, then I adjust whatever I can from there, if it's the brackets or the holes, to make it work. So it's really hard to give you a good answer because I don't have pictures or anything, and um, it's a lot easier if I get my hands on something. I can figure something out. But I know that I've not dealt with the 65 sheet metal from Dynacorn, so I can't give you a good answer on that. Um, Maybe you look at the video series on the light blue Mustang, might be able to give you some information. But thank you for the question. Mr. Mikey, daylight savings Saturday night, Sunday high in sky at 4 Eastern daylight time. Food for thought. Um, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I'm probably going to push it more towards 7 o'clock on Sunday night. We'll give it a shot. See what happens. Um, James, is fine with getting a cable throttle body assembly from Low Car? I don't think that's the plan. We're putting in a Holley EFI system, and there's a whole bunch of wires and stuff that goes on that. In fact, today I unwired. Let's see if I can get this angle down here. So I took all the wiring, the AC compressor, everything off of the engine, and at this point, I'm under the assumption that the Holley system will use the pedal that came with the engine itself. So that's at least that's where I'm at with it. I don't see why it wouldn't. Now I may have to do some modifications to make that pedal work, and that's going to again happen as we go. But that's a good question. James said, "I know it's drive-by-wire. How do they do that without a cable?" Yeah, I don't know on that. Like I'm under the assumption that the Holley system is going to replace all the wiring on the engine, and I'll look it over and see if it does connect to that that gas pedal that I have, um, and then I'll do my modifications to make room for that pedal with the floor pan because it's kind of it's got an odd shape to it. CHH says yes that. Travis, test fit all the outside panels, valance and bumper, and if that looks good, send it. That's pretty much it. You know, I want to have, uh, as I've said before, whenever you're doing this stuff, the outside matters more than what's inside as far as appearance. Measurements are one thing, but they don't always give you the true answer because I want to make sure the quarter panels are the same height. I want to make sure the deck lid fits. I want to make sure all these, when it's done and it's painted and you look at it from the outside, everything's right. I don't care if the inside's off half an inch. It doesn't matter. But if you try to make that happen on the fix the inside and the outside's off, you haven't gained anything. You're defeating the purpose. CHH, I appreciate it, Joe. I'll try to get the bumper lined up first. And C, I watched pretty much all your videos. Really good work, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. And CHH says, Travis, I'll just end up cutting the bottom of it, lines up, bottom off of it, lines up, and move the holes up if need be. Yeah. Gig'em Garage, Kevin Barth here. Welcome, sir. So a couple things I'm going to talk about. Let me get a sip of coffee first. So I had a conversation this week. It was a really good conversation. It lasted over an hour, and it's a young car guy. You've probably seen videos. You probably have maybe seen what he's done or what he's doing. He's up in New York. His name is Anthony, I think it's Amato, I think is his name. And he is building basically a 68 fastback, or, he's converting a coupe into a fastback. He's got a lot of ambition. He's not afraid to do stuff. And he's young. I mean, he's in his 20s, early 20s. Well, he had asked me for some advice on Facebook, and it dealt with the deck lid and fitment issues. And I've looked at his videos in the past, and I said, hey, man, slow down. Take a look at my videos so you see what you need to do. And he has watched my videos, but he wasn't like doing it as much as he should be. So we talked. He did do the adjustments that I told him to do, and he was very thankful. And so I felt really good about the fact that here's a young guy in his early 20s. He's about to graduate from college. He's actually looking at the possibility of doing this full time or doing this type of stuff full time. And it really felt good to have that conversation. And I try to give him insight. I try to give him, facts and figures and the reality of it. There's a lot involved. And he seems pretty driven. But to have that conversation with a young guy and see, we were FaceTiming and doing, all this stuff here. It was encouraging me because I realized, he started watching my videos, taking my advice, and it encouraged me because I want to see young guys and gals, girls, get involved. I want to see them doing this sort of stuff and keep this going, keep the industry going. We need to have somebody replace us one day whenever we can't do this stuff. And that's part of why my videos are, to a lot of people, invaluable, because they give you that information that will last forever, unless something changes and I decide to pull them all off my channel. But I'm just saying, it was great to have that conversation. So you've probably seen them. Maybe you've seen videos pop up. Young guy, good looking guy, great smile. And I'm really happy that I was able to talk to him. So anyway, let me go on to see what we have here. Randy Bayless, do you plan on making your own transmission tunnel, or do they sell a kit? That's a good question. And now, glad you're here, first of all. What I'm considering, I have a couple ideas. I have seen where companies called, like Fat Man Fabrications or Tin Man or something, they sell tunnels. They sell pieces that you can modify or cut up. I don't know what I'm going to do just yet. I have good material from what I've cut off of the car. Along with that, I actually have a complete tranny tunnel out of another car that is just outside. It's one that I saved the tranny tunnel. In fact, I have that one, and I have the tranny tunnel and firewall section from the car that I started with. So it may be, and I'm not saying Frankenstein, but it may be that I use those pieces, because I've actually been rolling this around in my head how I want to do this. I've talked about it before. If I go to bed and I try to think about something, and maybe during the night I dream it over and come up with an idea. And so I've seen these tunnels that people have used and built, and I've thought about the idea, instead of, and again, this is just rough. I've thought about splitting it across the top, take pieces and open it up rather than the bottom, and maybe make it a little bit wider in the top and just let it kind of float down across the width. So just variations on a design. You could easily keep the tunnel the shape that it's in and add strips on the sides to build it up, or split it down the middle, one of these other pieces that I have, make it wider and cut it down, cut it long so that it fits what's here. So just some variations on it. More than likely, I'll do something on my own, but there are companies out there that sell these things. So good question, Randy. Troy says, a light blue Mustang has been a go-to for me as I'm working on my 65. So far, the Dynacorn panels haven't been any better than NPD for my 65. Yeah, I believe it. They're the same panels. Dynacorn just puts their name on the box. Kind of like, what was that movie, Tommy Boy, where they talked about getting brakes, and they just said, yeah, we don't care what's in the box, just so it has your name on it. And that's kind of how they do it. So, also, I want to point this out. I've been looking at pieces and parts, and we talked about the vintage air setup on this car. I do have a radiator for this, but it's probably not going to work. And when I was looking at the front of the engine, there's transmission lines that come forward on the passenger side, and they curve across the front, and they go into what looks like an heat exchanger type of thing. So it's a stacked set of plates, and it looks like lines from the heater core go into that and out of that. And there's also lines that go from somewhere into the oil, where the oil filter is. There's a pair of lines there. So I feel like there's a big loop of plumbing that goes into this. Now, that doesn't mean we have to do that, and I don't plan to, but we have to do something because there's openings where the oil is. Now, I think if they're just fluid lines, like for coolant, those could be capped off. It's not going to make a difference. But the transmission lines, Currently, they have crimped rubber hoses on the end of the hard line. So those can be cut, fittings can be added to a radiator, and basically those could just be connected to the radiator. What we're going to run into though, and this is where we run into situations where um, parts may or may not work, as we all know. And the radiator we have is like it's like for a stock configuration. So it has the openings on the passenger side. And what I've been looking at was um, that this engine has opposite necks on the radiator, and I don't know that without doing some sort of really bizarre hoses or something to try to make the factory original style work. And somebody had commented on, I posted on Facebook, and they said they used a radiator from a 429. So I'm trying to get information on that to see what they were using. The radiator we have is really thick, and that may be a problem too because you run out of room between the engine and the core support. So some of these things we have to like work through. Also, I looked. I just happened to do a Google search, and I did a Google search on um, what did I labeled it Mustang radiator, Coyote radiator swap, or Coyote swap radiator, something like that. And one of the companies that showed up was Mustangs to Fear, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't look at their, I didn't really look at any of this stuff. They're showing on their website like the front runner system. They're using that from Vintage Air. It's on there. They're showing a fuel tank, and they have these categories where it says Coyote Swap Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and it's under the 67 to 68 Mustang. I didn't know that they had done this. And so there's information there that could be very, valuable down the road for us or anybody else who is wanting to do this. So if you do look it up, Mustangs to Fear, um, Coyote Swap, and there's a lot of information there and a lot of stuff they've already designed and built that does a lot of the homework for us. So just have a look at that. Um, okay, so Randy, awesome. Randy gave me a super sticker. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. That'll get me some donuts and coffee for sure. For sure. Okay, so choices. Talking about the light blue Mustang, and Dave Tyson says red 68 coupe. Yep. Yep. James says cut a tunnel from a 2016 Mustang from junkyard, 6R80 and 10R80 fit perfect. That's not a bad idea either. I may look at that and just see what the potential is. 2016. I may look at that. That's a good idea. I'll check into that. Robert says I'm going to go with the 70 big block radiator, slightly bigger and has the hoses on opposite sides of the radiator. Yeah, and that's what somebody was suggesting was the 429 radiator, and so maybe maybe that's something to look into. And I'm going to try to get again some more information on that and try to address these things. James says 71 through 73 Mustang big block correct inlet outlet positions. So okay, there we go. That's helpful. Travis, I like MTF. They treated me very good. Good. Yeah, I have no problem with MTF. I did a video when I was trying to put the Shelby style roll bar in there in the Cobra Jet, and I had so much trouble with that. And they actually watched my video, and they contacted me, and they asked me for measurements and everything else, and I gave it to them, and they redesigned their tooling. They redesigned what they had to make them fit. So they sent me another one, and it fit like it was supposed to. So yeah, I don't. I shout out to Mustangs to Fear. The only thing I'll say is I had, and I don't mean to be, I don't want to be indifferent or rude about it. The owner of Mustangs to Fear, he saw my videos, and he took it personal. He took it personal that I was pointing out that the roll bar wouldn't fit because he designed that. Now, whatever happened between his design and the end product, I don't know. It could have been an error in manufacturing. It doesn't matter. But he was commenting on my video saying, well, all you have to do is put a strap on it and pull it into position and hold it and weld it. And, I'm like, no, that's not how this works. If you build a product, you shouldn't have to do anything to it, to be honest. Granted, we have to do sheet metal work and fix things. I get it. But if you build a specific product like that roll bar is supposed to mimic a Shelby style roll bar, the average person isn't going to want to go get straps and come along and tug this thing and be inside. They don't want to do that. But he took it personal and he made comments on my channel, and that's where I have a little bit of a. And I know it's not Mustangs to Fear because he doesn't own it anymore. They've changed. They new ownership. So I'm a little bitter about that guy and his response to me pointing out the problems with their product. But shout out to them. They came back. They fixed the tooling. They even went so far as to measure the ones they had on hand, and they were like, "Oh boy, all of these are wrong," and nobody else had ever told them that they were wrong. And so they fixed it. They fixed them all. Let's see. CHH. I bought the entire custom front fender set and chassis stiffening from MTF. Great pieces for a custom resto mod. Okay, very good. Very good. Inner fender. Okay. Artman, I had a similar thought concerning core support, radiator, condenser, etc. Can a modern Mustang core support be worked in somehow? That's the thought. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, currently what we have is should be set up. I don't know because I don't know how they're built. Like if that would work or not, but maybe that's a possibility. So it's worth a thought. Thank you, Art. Michael Pegnorini, make a pipe anvil and make your own trans tunnel. That's what I did. Okay, I will admit, I just wanted to use a new tool that I made. Yeah. Well, I've used in the past. I've used drive shafts to make stuff, to make curves and everything else. I've used um, like argon bottles, big gas bottles to make curves. So yeah, I've done stuff like that. It's not that difficult, but it, I want kind of want to use what's left from what I cut out overall and work with that. If I have to, I'll do something else, but um, we'll see. That's a good idea. CHH says he's laughing at Michael. I watched Fitzy's Fab and made one of my own too. Yeah, yeah. I've made all kinds of stuff like that, or whatever I needed over the years, um, and it's one of those things. You learn how to do something, and it pays off years later. You know, that's why as I was talking to that young man on the phone, he was asking me how I knew what I was doing, and I said, well, I grew up around these cars all my life, and I was a sheet metal mechanic for Delta. Now, granted, aluminum is different than steel, but it's the fundamentals are there. What I really wish, not that I would have a place to put it, but the tools and equipment that Delta had, they used to have out on the floor in the hangar. I mean, presses and shrinkers and spreaders and bandsaws, and they were so so much equipment that used to be at our fingertips, and that went away. They took it away because penny pinchers took the sheet metal repair stuff and contracted it out somewhere else. And so those of us who had those did all that stuff were like, oh no, like all these really nice machines because we could use them for a lot of things other than aircraft stuff, and they all they all went away. So it's unfortunate. Different skill set. Michael says that's where I got the idea from. Yeah, I've seen several people make pipe anvils, and Joe and Fitzy have made this car so much easier to work on. Yeah. Anthony is checking in. Thanks for the help editing video now with you to post tonight. Awesome, man. I was just talking about you. I don't know if you're just checking in, but I was just telling everybody it was a really good conversation we had, um, and I'm so glad we did talk, and I'm glad that you are involved. You know, we need to have young guys coming in and stepping up and doing these things and continuing uh, these builds and keep the dream alive. So glad you're here, man. James says, since you can't use the export brace, are you installing a Monte Carlo brace? Just wondering about front stiffness. Um, I don't think we'll gain anything by a Monte Carlo bar. The Monte Carlo bar is intended for shock towers. So there's no shock towers. And the export brace wouldn't do anything either in this case. I think it's going to be fine the way it is. I know on the other car, the Brooklyn Pony that I built, I did put in frame stiffeners on that. And in fact, that was another one I think Mustangs to Fear. They saw they saw my videos and they redesigned that because they realized it was somewhat cosmetic when they did it. I'm pretty sure it was MTF had made those. The the bar brace or the pipe that they made, while it did strut down to the torque box, the upper portion just went to the firewall. Like it didn't do anything. It relied on that somewhat of a triangulation of that bar coming up from the torque box and connecting it. That's really all it was doing. And I'd made a plate and put on the firewall. Now I don't know if they've changed it since then or improved it, but ideally you're not going to get much stiffness unless you have like a roll bar inside that is in that front section and everything's tied front to back. So not much. I mean, there's probably some ways you could add strength to it, but I don't think that's going to be something that's going to happen with this setup right now. Also, I want to point this out as we talk about that. So, Don had done a video on his car, Betsy, and it was really kind of cool what he did. You have that narrow flange for the cowl, run side to side, and now Don he drag races his car, so he was trying to reinforce the factory car, not like this is where it has all this extra steel already in place and all that. What he did, he took a piece of 1 inch square tubing and he curved it to match the shape of the cowl. And he ran it from side to side. Okay. So he ran that all the way across and then he added 1 inch square tubing from the end of it. It stuck out past the kick panel. He brought it out past. He ran a piece of square tubing up to the A pillar. And then he brought another piece down to the rocker panel. And I don't know if he triangulated that. I don't remember exactly. And then I think he put a strut from that corner down to the shock tower. It was a really neat idea, and it was almost hidden. Like you could barely see that piece of square tubing was underneath the cowl. And it was just to me it was brilliant because you're using the structure of the car, but you're also adding pieces hidden behind the fender, and you're adding strength to different ways to do it. Um, so just there's different ways to make things stronger, and triangulation is obviously key to all that. But at this point, I don't see us adding any extra bracing. This stuff is really strong the way it is. Um, it's it's possible we could come up with something, but I don't know that it's absolutely necessary. What I might consider, now that I'm just sitting here, just kind of rolling thoughts in my head, um, because of the torque box and the upper, it's probably not necessary. I'm overthinking it. But if I ran a bar from the torque box to the forward upper control arm area, that would probably wouldn't add much, but it would kind of do that same effect, at least to the rear, like not all the way out to the front of the car. So anyway, it was really cool to see what Don did on that on his project. 427. I've seen a few people on vintage Mustangs add the 1-inch square tubing under the cowl and brace all inside the inner fenders. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it was what he did was really good. I'm glad you're here. 427. Randy, maybe a dumb question, but will the front rotors match the bolt pattern for the wheels on the back rotors if you're using Explorer ran like Robert is, or not really sure how that works? Okay, so what you're asking is it 5 on 4.5? Is that the pattern on the axles, right? So I think 5 on 4.5 is what, if I remember correctly, that's what it is on these cars, and I believe that's what it is on the Explorer too. I believe it's 5 on 4.5. I think it's the same bolt pattern. The alternative is you could take those axles if you needed to. You could take them to a machine shop and tell them what your bolt pattern is, and they can put new holes in for new studs. But I think it's exactly the same. I don't think there's any difference. So, in fact, Robert just chimed in. The Explorer has the same 5 by 4.5. So there you go. Good question and a quick answer. Gerhard, subscribe to Anthony. Going to check him out. Okay, good. Very good. James, I was thinking of inserting a 1-inch thick wall pipe into the A pillar in the convertible to keep the windshield frame from collapsing if car rolls over. A 1-inch thick wall. Square, is that what you're saying? Wall pipe. Okay, so thick wall, piece of 1-inch pipe that has a thick wall to it. That's what we're trying to say. Okay. It's not a bad idea. I'll suggest this though. That would definitely help with the windshield, right? Are you going to put a roll bar in it? That's probably the bigger question. Like on a convertible, we know it's a pancake. If that car rolls over and lands upside down, odds are nobody's walking away from that thing anyway. But if you can make that stronger, that'll be a benefit. But seriously, I would consider putting a rear hoop in it, some shape or form, and try to make it as strong as I could. Just a thought. But yeah, can't go wrong to add some strength into the windshield post. Robert says anything that makes the A pillar stronger should help. Yeah. Yep. 427. Speaking of chassis stiffening, it still amazes me to see somebody spend $1,500 putting in some frame connectors but won't add torque boxes. Oh yeah, that's wrong. No. That you're 100% correct. Torque boxes to me are more important than anything when it comes to stiffening these cars up. And Ford knew it too. That's why they added them. What's crazy about it is you don't think about that area very much, right? It's just a piece of floor pan and firewall between the rocker panel and the frame rail. And not saying it would happen, but the potential of that failing, something getting through that, you know, is greater. Like if you were to hit a guardrail, you want as much as you can between you and whatever guardrail piece you're hitting. If you don't ever, you don't do that, by the way. Um, but I'm just saying, I would rather have a structure there, make it stiff, strong, and try to protect the occupants as much as we can as well. But yeah, I would definitely do torque boxes before frame connectors. Yeah. Okay. Um, Robert says, without the T boxes, there is no real support there, and really surprising, the cars didn't fold there just for normal use. Yeah. Well, and we talked about that before with the other Harvey's car that his son had got in an accident in. Yeah, this one, that car right there, 67 they had, and then this happened, and that's the passenger side. Um, that's the passenger side floor. So if a passenger was in that side and that rotation of that floor support just pushed up the floor, and so you're right. It's a wonder that more of these cars just didn't end up um, like this. You know, there's not much holding them together once they get some rust in them. Um, James, Shelby roll bar for sale actually says for looks only. It's called a style bar. I wish they made a padded one that did work as a roll bar. It is. It says that for a reason, right? So they don't want it to be considered a safety element because that bar is not. It's not the same as what I put in this car. It's the same bar. Like I can by looking at it, it feels like it's made a nice thick pipe, but it doesn't have any strut bracing. There's no bars going to the back of the car. That's why they say that because it's just a hoop that goes behind the passenger seats, or driver and passenger. Um, it doesn't have any, um, you know, continued bracing going to the back. 427, I added convertible rockers, new torque boxes, and reinforced the jacking rails on my 67. That's about the best you can do minus a cage. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And George McFly says, "Hey, everybody. Okay, George, now that you're here, I'm going to call it a night." No, seriously. Uh, I'm glad you're here, George. But it's been an hour. And, I don't want to talk about a whole lot going on in family life and stuff, but there's a few things that have happened over the past 2 weeks. Y'all know my mom she's got problems. Um, and we actually had to put down two of our pets in a period of 4 days. Our last two pets we had to put them down, and that's been rough. We had to put our cat down. It was a Thursday, and then our dog we put down this Monday night, and it was not fun. So, I love our dogs specifically, but I like pets. So give your dogs and cats a little extra love and take care of them because one day they're going to go away and you're going to really feel bad about it. So anyway, it was really rough. It was really rough this past week. So anyway, that'll be it for tonight. Um, I'm going to plan for coming back on Sunday night next week. It feels like everybody's okay with that. So I'm going to say let's do Sunday night at 7 next week, and we'll see how it goes. But I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. If you would, leave comment, thumbs up, all that stuff. But that'll be it for tonight's show. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.